So in the last class, we have tried to execute our test cases through command prompt. And for that, we have installed Maven on Windows. And we run some issues. Within your Eclipse, your project is successfully executed. But once you start executing your command prompt, it is giving an error. And that is because of Java compatibility. Because in your Eclipse, the entire project is built on Java, which comes along with the Eclipse. Obviously, that is the latest version. I think Java 17, which is the latest version, which comes along with the Java, along with the Eclipse. So we don't face any issues within your Eclipse, and you're able to run the pom.xml. So in the pom.xml, we also added two different plugins, Maven Surefire plugin, and then we also added compiler plugin, so which is successfully executed. But once you start executing in the command prompt, so we need to install the compatible version of Java. So earlier I have Java 10. So because which is not compatible with this, that's the reason the project is not executed. So here, this is an issue actually. So let me open why I got this issue. And even if you face the same issue, you guys can easily fix it. So you can just look at here. These are the different Java version. Java 1.2 uses major version 47, 46 to 47, 48, 49. So there are different versions are there. Major, these are called major versions. And yesterday we got issue here. So here we got an issue. So actually we have Java 10, but our project is compiled on major version 55. So Java 10 is not supported 55. So at least we need to have minimum 10, Java 10, so that we will able to support all these major versions. So better to install at least Java 11. So even if you install Java 11, you may get issue in future also. So that what I can suggest, at least install Java 12 or 13. Above 11, whatever is required. 11 is also fine, but above the 11, whatever versions you have, so you can just install it. That is enough. Okay. So I can suggest that. So I can download the latest version, Java 11 or 12, and then try to install. So I already installed that. So Java 10, I already removed. So if I just go back and see program files, Java. So currently we have a JDK 11. So JRE will automatically comes along with the JDK. So you don't need to install JRE separately. So currently Java JDK 11 is there. So once you copy this, you need to also set a Java path. You can just go back and see these PC properties. And here, go to advanced system settings, environment variables. And here, I created two different variables actually, Java underscore home, Java Maven underscore home. Actually, you can directly go to the path, edit, and here you can specify the Java path. You can directly copy the Java path like this. So whichever Java path you have copied from JDK, so you can have this path here, or else what we can do is we can create two different variables here. So click on the new here and just type Java underscore home. And here you can specify the Java path. So till JDK folder. So here till JDK. So whichever folder structure, the same path we can specify there. We can create a Java home like this here. And then your variable will be created. Same thing we repeat for Maven also. So you can just click on the new here, Maven underscore home, because we use the same variables in Jenkins also. So that's the reason we follow this approach. And create a variable Maven underscore home and specify the Maven home. Maven home is nothing but yesterday we have seen. So we copied Maven into the C drive somewhere. You can see here, I have two versions and currently I can use the latest version of Maven, no problem. 386 also working fine. So go to 368 and copy this location. This is your Maven home location. So copy this location and then keep it here. So after creation of the variables, you can see two entries here under system variables, Java-home underscore home, Maven underscore home. And once it is created, and then you can go to the path variable. In the path variable, you don't need to give the complete path here. Just to specify Maven home and Java home like this. But just look at here, percentile Maven underscore, because we already created the path under system variables. So that variable we have to refer percentile Maven underscore home percentile /bin. because all binaries are available inside the Maven home. Same thing for Java home also. Percentile Java underscore home percentile / bin. If you don't want to create Java home and Maven home, directly here you can copy the path. Directly Java home / bin. So the complete path of Java home or Maven. So if you want to copy Maven, go to bin folder, copy this, and including bin, it should be there. But till bin folder, copy here, and then click on the new and paste here. So if you do like this, then Maven home is not required. So this is not required. Same thing if you do Java like this, Java home is also not required. Okay, so just follow one approach. So delete this. So currently we have Maven Java home, both are required. So then I have added them. So this is a basic setup. Okay, because we are running outside of Eclipse, so we need to make sure our Java version, Maven, everything is properly compatible or not. So I will share this link. If you face any issues, just go through this. So these are the different Java versions and supported major versions. Okay, so let's copy this URL. Okay, so now let's move on to the execution part. So how to run your project through command prompt. Yeah, Java 11 is compatible. Yes. Okay, so now let's get the path of your project. Right click on project, go to properties and get this path. So this is your current project path, project location in the workspace. So now we need to navigate to this location. Open the command prompt or terminal, cd. And now currently we are in the location. So here we have to run all the Maven commands. Okay, so how to run the Maven commands? I can say mvn is a keyword. Mvn - version. You can just check the version number. Currently, which I have configured is 368. And what is the Java which I configured? JDK 11. Okay, so make sure this. So once we're done, so let's try to execute. Actually, this JDK is not related to Maven. Okay, because in Eclipse, we have built this project, right? We have built this project with the latest version of Java, which is comes along with the Eclipse. So approximately is Java 17, right? But the same project, whichever project we have built on Java 17, we are trying to run the project with the old versions of Java. So that is a problem here. And because of that reason, we got this. Okay, so now mvn, the command is, we already have mvn configuration is done. So command is mvn test. Okay, this is a command because in this location we already have pom.xml. So this is our pom.xml. This we are going to execute now. So mvn, and when I execute clean command, this will clean up all the files, unnecessary files, clean and test. Now enter, it will start running your project. In project, we don't need to switch to any new version. Okay, so in Eclipse, still be there. We don't need to change anything in Eclipse. Okay, now it is successfully executed. Now, if I just look at the command prompt, the build is got successful. So that means our project is successfully executed, and we are also printed response body for some request. So we're able to see everything here. Okay. So this is how we can run our test in the command prompt. This is the first step. So why we will run the command prompt, I'll tell you here. So the thing is, the first step is execute tests using pom.xml within Eclipse. So this is the first step, right? If your project is successfully executed here, then only we will able to run through command prompt. Suppose here itself it is got failed, we can't go to the next step. Okay, so in the next step we will execute tests using pom.xml in command prompt. In command prompt. So if it is successfully executed within your Eclipse, then you are able to successfully execute through command prompt by using Maven command. And if you are executing successfully using Maven command, then only you will able to run your project remotely through Jenkins. From GitHub, you will able to run it, because in Jenkins also we will specify the Maven command. So how we have executed this command, the same command we will specify in the Jenkins. So Jenkins also run your project by taking the help of the same command. So if you want your project should be successfully executed within your Jenkins, before that we should able to execute successfully through command prompt. So that's the reason we try to execute the project in the command prompt. And once it is successfully done here, then we will be able to run our project from anywhere, even in Jenkins or any other places, we can easily run it. But why we will run these many times actually? So this is again related to continuous integration process, CI process. In the CI process, let me just give you very high level introduction, because we already discussed this apart from the Selenium course. I'm not going in depth, but I'm just going to show you what is exactly CI means and why we need to execute these many times. So continuous integration process, why we need Jenkins, Git, GitHub. So these things we need to understand. Okay. So normally what happens is in the environment, real-time environment, we have developers. Okay. And also we have a testers. This is another team. So developers will basically develop the code. And at the end of the day, there are multiple developers maybe, right? So there are multiple developers are working on multiple things. So at the end of the day, what they do is they will check in the code in the common repository. This is version control actually. Version control. So every time, every day, at the end of the day, all developers, whatever the code they have developed, they will check in their code in the common repository, right? This is called repository. This is called repository. And which repository it is? It is a global repository. But before sending their code into global repository, they are also having their own local repositories. They are having their own local repository. Actually, this is we call as a Git. Git is a local repository. So they will commit their code first inside their local repositories. And then they will push their entire code from your local repository to remote repository. So here we call as a push action. Here we call as a commit action. And once the entire code is available in the global repository, this is GitHub repository. Git is a local repository. GitHub is a remote repository. So here the entire code is available. Now, what DevOps team will do here is DevOps team will create something called a build by taking this code, build or package or whatever is, even Swagger related code, whatever the development is done for Swagger, even that also. So they will create a build kind of thing. And this we will validate by using testing code. So whatever developer is doing, parallelly, the testers also do the same thing. So whatever the automation code we have developed, at the end of the day, all the testers, they will keep their code in the local repository, which is Git repository. And from there, they will push the code in the GitHub repository. And in the DevOps environment, they will use Maven to create a build from the developers. And from the GitHub, they will get the automation code. Using Jenkins, they will try to execute our automation code against the build. So here itself, almost basic sanity and regression is completed at the before getting the build itself. So this is called continuous integration process. One side, the developer will do their own tasks, and other side, the testers also will do their own tasks. So developers, testers, and DevOps, these three teams will work together collaboratively to achieve the one goal. And why these things are introduced? Because to make the process very faster. But previously, before DevOps is there in the market, so developers themselves, they create a build and everything. So directly testers and developers were able to communicate. But now also we will able to communicate, but instead of, if you have any issues or bugs or anything related to project, they will communicate. But actually the process infrastructure or process, they will automate by using DevOps. DevOps is not a technology, actually. This is not a tool. It's a team development operations. So they do some tasks from the developers, they do some tasks from the tester. So they should have a both development and a testing skills. Okay, this is the actual process. So that is the reason we should make sure, we have to make sure our code is available in the local repository. From there, we will push it into the GitHub repository. So at the end of the day, our code should be there in the GitHub repository, and Jenkins will able to get that code, latest code every time, and able to execute in their environment. So this is actual CA process. So that is the reason we should able to execute our project first in the command prompt. Before directly jumping into the Jenkins, in the local environment, we are testing whether our project is successfully working fine or not. So two verifications. One is we should able to run our project within your Eclipse. That is your tool. Second thing is command prompt. In the command prompt also, we should able to execute. So once they are successful, then we will able to commit our code into the Git, then push it to the GitHub. Then using Jenkins, we will able to run our project. So this is the complete process. Okay, so now we will see the complete workflow of CI, how we can commit the code in the local repository, remote repository, all these things one by one. Okay, so execute test using pom.xml in the command prompt. And the third step is, once it is successful, then we will commit code in local repository. That is your Git repository. That is your Git repository. And once also successful, then push your code to GitHub repository. This is a code to remote repository, or we can say global repository, because everybody able to access this repository. Remote repository. This is GitHub repository. And the last step, we will able to run project in Jenkins from GitHub. So Jenkins will get the code from the latest code from the GitHub every time, because this is an everyday task. Whenever you do some changes, whenever you add new test cases or update or delete anything, we will always make sure those changes should be part of the local repository and remote repository. So this is how we need to do it. Yeah, GitHub is a remote repository, Git is a local repository. So these are the steps we have to follow now. Okay, so let us see now. This part is completed, 1 and 2. So now we will try to understand more about Git, GitHub, and then finally Jenkins, how Jenkins will get the code from the GitHub repository. So now let us look at the GitHub workflow. So as I said just now, so this is actually workflow. Okay, so just now I told you, right? So these are the workspaces from the testers, and these are the development workspaces. And what developers do is, every day, whatever they have completed, the task, the work in their workspaces, first they will commit their code in their local repositories. Git is a local repository. And from there, they will push the code in the remote repository, which is a GitHub repository. And what DevOps team will do, the main role of DevOps team is build creation, run our automation, and then build certification. So these tasks they will do by using different tools like Maven and Jenkins. And by using Maven, whatever the code the developer is sent, they will compile the code, they will run the code, test the code, and then finally they will package and install it. And at the other side, testers also, they do automation on day-to-day basis. And we will make sure our code is available in our local repository. From there, we will push it to the GitHub repository. Jenkins will get our code from the GitHub repository and run our automation on the particular build. So every day it will happen. So because in the first time itself, we will not get the complete build. But first 1 or 2 rounds, there will not be any run automation. But after few rounds, the build will be stable, then you start creating more number of test cases. That should be part of your GitHub repository. So this is a completely CI flow actually. So let me share small document, Git workflow, right? So this is actually GitHub workflow. So currently our project is present inside our Eclipse. So that is working directory. Here our files are there. We call it as a untracked files. So from there, we have to commit to the repository. So repository is also our local, right? Git is a local repository that we have to install actually. So there are multiple phases are there. We cannot directly send our files to remote file. Our ultimate goal is what? Our local files should be available in the remote repositories. Then only Jenkins will get that code from the remote repository, which is GitHub repository. So for that, we need to follow the workflow. We can't directly push it to the GitHub repository. We have to go through certain workflow. So this is your Git and GitHub workflow. So currently our files are present inside our workspace. We call it as a working directory and all files are untracked. And now we need to add these files to staging area. Staging is nothing but between our workspace and your local repository. Git is a local repository. Between these two, there is one more virtual area, which is called staging area, and which we cannot see these locations actually. So once you have all the files in the working directory, by using add command, we will add all the files to staging first. And once the files are available here, so then we will commit those files to your local repository. So now files are available in the repository. So this is not copying files. Okay, remember guys, we are not copying files from one place to another place. We are getting one copy of the original files into another one. Suppose currently in your working directory, your files are present, right? Here files are present. So once you add these files to your staging, still your files are there in your workspace. Okay, they don't go anywhere. And after committing those files into repository also, still your files are available. Okay, so commit the code into the local repository. So here we call as a tracked file, and here we call as a committed file. Committed file. So from here, we will finally push into the remote repository. That is GitHub repository, where we call it as a remote file. So once your project is pushed to the remote repository, then that is available globally. So everybody able to access, and Jenkins also will able to get the code from the remote repository. So this is called workflow. So our working directory to staging, staging to local repository, which is Git, from where to we need to push into the remote file. So this is a GitHub workflow. So now we are going to do this workflow by using Git commands. So before that, we need to also install Git software, and then only you will able to do that. So how to install Git software? I will share small document and you can simply install it. It's very simple. Just go to this link and here you can download Git software, and you can download this Git software, which is also available for Mac. You can just download this. You can see here, you can just download Mac build if you're working on Mac, or if you're working on Windows, you can just download Windows. So, or else go to downloads here, and here you can see Mac, Windows, Linux. So we need to click on the Windows. Currently we are working. So we'll go to another page, and based upon your chipset, we can download one executable file. So you will get some .exe file for Git, and this is the installer file. We have to install this complete software, and this is the download location. So once you download it, then what we need to do, we have to run the installer. So it will go through certain steps. So follow all these steps one by one. So once you start installing your Git, you can just run it. So you will get another screen like this, and again click on the next. So you will get another screen. So just follow all the screen. Almost 10 to 12 screens are there. So step-by-step installation. I captured all the screens at the time of installation. So I'll share this, and you guys can go through and install this Git. So once you install this, finally, you will also get Git command prompt.
Just like Windows command prompt we have, right? Similarly, Git is also having their own command prompt. So how to get this Git command prompt? Suppose if you open any folder, so let me open some folder, any folder you can open. And once you open any folder like this, and you will able to see when you right click here, you will able to see something here in this pop-up. You can see show more options. And here you can see two options here, git GUI, git bash here. Okay. So this is same in Selenium, guys. So this is the same. This is the global concept. Even if you go with Selenium, REST Assured, or some other technology, the CI process is same everywhere. Okay. So no doubt about this. This is the same process. Wherever you are discussing about Git, GitHub, Jenkins, the process is same. We are going to use the same CI process with the different technologies. On the web automation we have seen, now we are seeing the API. That's the only difference. But the process is exactly the same. You don't need to again do it again and again. Okay, so this is a common process. Every tester, every developer should know it, because as soon as you have done something, you should be able to make you should have to make sure your code should be available in the remote repository. That is your ultimate goal. So to do that, we have to go through this process. Okay, so once you successfully install your Git software, you will able to see these two options. Wherever, whichever folder you open, just right click here and go to properties, and then you will see these options, GUI here, bash here. When you open this Git bash, then you will able to see the Git command prompt. So all Git related commands we will able to execute in this command prompt. Okay, so the entire process we are going to do using Git commands. So the entire process we are going to do using Git commands. Just a moment. Okay. Yeah. So now we have installed Git. That's the first thing. So let me also write the commands here. So which step we are doing now? We are slowly entering into the third step actually. So, but before doing the third, fourth, fifth, we need to do some setup. So install Git software. That's the first thing, right? So the second thing is CA process. Okay. Now we have successfully installed Git software. And the second thing is what? We need to also have account with the GitHub. Okay. So Git is a local repository. So by using Git software, we will able to create our local repository. So then we will able to commit the code into local repository. But if you want to push that code in the remote repository, we need to have a GitHub account. We need to have a GitHub account. We have to create a remote repository in the GitHub. So then we will able to push it. So we need to have a GitHub account. For that, we need to go to GitHub, their official website. So GitHub is a web application. Git is a desktop application. So GitHub, go to the github.com. And this is your, I already logged into my project here. So if I just go back and you can see your repositories, then you will able to see all the repositories here. So these are the different repositories which I have created on my GitHub account. So here you need to create your own account. Okay, your own repository you have to create. But before that, you need to have a GitHub account. That is mandatory required. So you can just do sign up process and then create your own account. So then create an account with GitHub. Okay, don't create a GitHub repository for now. Just create an account and keep it with you. Because later you want to you have to log in into the GitHub, then we will able to create a repository. So these are the two prerequisites. So in the CA process, these are the two prerequisites. Okay. So once you have installed Git in the local system, and also you have an account with the GitHub. So once you have these two, then we will start doing the workflow. So what is the workflow of a Git here? This is the workflow. So this workflow, we are able to do it. So now let us do one by one by using different commands. So currently we are here, working directory, right? So what is a working directory means? The path of your project is a working directory. So we already captured this, right? This is called working directory. We can call it as a working project location, right? This is the project, and here all our project files are present. So now the next step is we have to add those project files into staging, and then we have commit the code in the local repository, and then we have to push it to the remote repository. So this is a complete workflow which we have to do it. So for that, we need to execute certain number of commands. I'll show you what are the commands we have to execute. The first command is we need to create our local repository by using git init command. Okay, git init command will create local repository. Git init command will create a local repository. So let's try to create a local repository. So where we will create? Again, in your project location. So go to this location and open the GitHub command prompt. Okay, git command prompt open. So how to open the git command prompt? First of all, go to your project location. So this is your project location. So these are all project related files. Now here, right click and then open git command prompt. So now currently we are in the project location and this is your git command prompt. So here we have to execute a sequence of commands one by one. The first command which we have to execute is what? Git init. That will create an empty local repository, empty local repository. So how to create here? Git init. So once executed, so it is created, initialized empty git repository. So where is that repository created? Inside your project .git. This is the hidden file actually. We can't see the repository file, which is hidden file. So this is a new local repository which is created, which is empty. As of now, this repository is empty repository. We don't have any files in that. So this is the first thing which we have to do. So we created local repository. And the second thing is, once you created your local repository, and we have to provide our information to the local repository, because first time when you're working with a git command, first time you have to tell your username and your email address to the git repository, because whatever changes you do or whatever updations, modifications you do, everything will be remembered by using your name and Gmail email address. Okay, because so many people in the team will do so many changes, but how we can recognize who is done which change? So git required your information so that whatever task you are doing by using git, that will be recorded by using your username and email. So for that, we need to do 2 configuration commands we have to execute first time. And every time we don't need to execute. First time when I are using git commands, first time we have to do those 2 commands. So what are those 2 commands? Git config ---- global user.name, and here in the double quotations you have to provide your username. Let's say I'm passing my name like this. This is the first command, and once executed and it is done. So the same command again we have to execute. Instead of user.name, then you have to say user.email. So here you have to give your email address. So whichever email address you are using for GitHub account, same email address, you can still use it here. So that our Git will remember your information. So these 2 commands we have to execute only once. First time you have to execute. Okay, so only once, first time you have to execute. Every time it is not required. Okay, let me just try these commands. Yeah, username, it can use any username. Okay, just that name the Git will remember. And the username which you have given in GitHub, that is also same. So we can just give that name also, no issues. Okay. So these are the only one time we have to execute these 2 commands. These two commands we have to execute only one time. Now, the next thing is we have to check the status. Okay, we have told our information to the Git local repository, perfectly fine. So we already created your local repository, empty repository also. Now, what is the next thing we have to do? We have to make sure our files we should be added to the staging. From there, we have to commit our code to the local repository. Again, from there, we have to push our code to the remote repository. This is the workflow we have to do. So before adding our files to the staging, we have to check the status, like is there any files are ready to add or not. Every time we can check the status. So whether files are there in the working directory or not, already committed, already added or not, already committed or not, already pushed or not, we can verify by using status command. So in the command prompt, just type this command, git status. All commands will execute through git keyword, git status. Now you can just look at these are the files we have to add to the index first. That is called staging area. Staging is also called as the indexing area. So now red is nothing but what? These are the files ready to add staging area. Okay. So what it is saying, nothing added to commit, but untracked files are present. Untracked files are nothing but what? Whatever files are available in your working directory, we call them as a untracked files. So which are represented with the red color. So red color representation means they are still not part of staging or repositories. Still our files are present only in the working directory. So now the next step is what? We have to add these files to your staging area. So for that, we will execute one command here. You can just clear this. All Unix commands will work here. Okay. So now the add command I'm going to execute. How do you execute add command? Git add. And if you want to add all the files, including folder files, everything, simply say -a. So this will add all the files to your staging, whatever is available. Sorry, git add -a. Okay. Suppose you no need to add all the files and you already added some files earlier, but now you want to add a few number of files. So then you can specify the file name here. You can simply say file name dot Java or whatever. So specific file name you can add. So by using git add file name. Okay. And suppose if you want to add multiple files with the same extension, which are having same extension, then you can write this simple regular expression, say star here. Means all the files, whichever is having Java extension will be added to the staging. Okay. So in the first time we have to add everything. So we need to say git add -a. So when I execute this command, which is added all the files to your staging. Now, if you look at the status, previously when I say status, it is giving in red color. Now, when I say get to status command, once again, now everything is turned into green. That means all the files are added to the staging area. So this is the second command. Second is just configuration commands. Now the third one. What is the third one? Git status we can check every time. So not only single time, we can, whenever you want to check status, you can check status. And after checking the status, I have executed this command git -. So git add -a. This is the command. And again, multiple commands are there. So you can just, let me just try to add all combinations. Okay, so git add -a means all the files and folders will be added to the staging. And suppose if you want to add a specific file, you can specify the name of the file. Or if you want to add a group of files which are having same extension, then you say star.extension name. Or if you want to add only particular folder, then you can specify the folder name. So whichever way you want, you can do it. So now all files are present in the staging. So if I just look at here, we are here now. Okay, we added all the files from working directory to staging area. So currently we are here. So what is the next thing now? We need to commit our files from staging to Git repository, which is your local repository. So for that, we have to execute one more command called commit command. Now again, go to the same command prompt, clear this, and get I git commit. And whenever you do commit, we have to give some comment actually. -m. In the double quotations, you can write whatever you want. So I can just write, this is my first commit. So actually we will write the message here. What are the changes you have done in your project? What are the new changes you are committing? So that information we have to provide. So git commit -m, this is my first commit. So this is description of your commit. Why you are committing, you can just describe with the message. So actual command is git commit -m. -m is mandatory required. -m is representing the comment. So in the double quotations, we provide the command. So when I execute this command, the entire code you will be committed to the local repository with your git repository. Now let me just execute this command. Now everything is turned into white color. So white is representing the committed files. So if you look at the status again, git status, what it is saying, on branch master, nothing to commit. Working tree is clean. That means there are no files ready to commit because we already done it. So we are added to the staging, then we have added to the git repository. Everything is done. So there are no files available in the working directory which are ready to commit. But if you add more files in the working directory again, then you have to do the same process one more time. So whenever you add a new files or whenever you updated existing files or deleted files, you have to make sure those changes also should be part of your local and remote repositories. For that reason, we have to execute the sequence of commands on day-to-day basis. Every day you do this, which is a common process. At the end of the day, you do this. Whenever you do some changes, every day we will execute these commands. Okay. So now where are our files? Our files are present inside your local repository, which is your git repository. By using this command, next command, fifth command. So what is this? Git command, git commit -m, and in the double quotations here we say commit message, some commit message we specify. So this particular command will commit your code into your local repository. So currently we are here in the git repository, our files are available. So now once we have files in the git repository, finally we have to push our code into the remote repository. We have to push this code into the remote repository. So for that, what you have to do, first of all, we have to create an empty remote repository. So initially we created an empty git repository, then we have done this process. And before pushing this code in the remote repository, first we have to create an empty remote repository in the GitHub. Then we will able to push it. Now go back to your GitHub account. So here we will create our own repository. So how to create our own repository? Here you can just go to, this is actually home page. So here you can see the new button. By clicking on the new button, you can create your GitHub repository, empty repository, or you can just go here. Here also you can see something called go to your repository. You can see the plus button, right? So by using this plus button also, you can create a new repository. So I'm just clicking on this so that I can create my own repository. So here, give the repository name. So repository name is normally the name of your project. Pet automation, right? Pet to store automation. So I'm giving the same name to my remote repository like this. Okay, once it is given, just click on the public private. There are two kinds of remote repositories are there. When you select a private, you only can see your project, right? Nobody can see the project. And even Jenkins also cannot get the project from the GitHub repository if you make it as a private. So try to make it as a public so that everybody able to access your project. So give the project name and say create repository. And this will create an empty repository, empty remote repository. So this is your repository URL. So now if you share this URL to anyone else, they can see your code, they can download your code, they can run your project in their Jenkins also, because now the project is available in globally or remotely. So everybody able to access, but still we have not pushed, just we created only empty repository. So this URL is very, very important for us. Okay, so this is a URL which we need. This is the URL we have to capture. So login to, actually this is a prerequisite, not here. So here, create an account with a GitHub and then create empty repository. Okay, and once you create an empty repository, you will get the repository URL. So this is a repository URL. Repository URL. Okay, that's a prerequisite actually. Before that itself, we have to capture this. So now by using this remote repository, we will establish the connection between your local repository and the remote repository. So this is the URL which we have to use to connect, right? So in the fifth command, what we have to do is we have to push the code. So till here, we have done local work. All the tasks we have done locally. So all these commands we have done local system. So now we have to push our code to the remote repository. So for that, we have to do some more commands. Push the code to remote repository. Okay, now here fifth step will start. How to push the code to remote repository. So first of all, we have to establish the connection to your local repository with your remote repository. So for that, what we have to do, we have to execute one command here. That is get remote add origin and branch name, which is master. Master is a default branch. Okay. So this is the command which we have to execute. Okay, get the remote add origin, get the remote add origin in the double quotations. You have to specify the URL, whichever we copied. So this URL we have to specify here. Then this command will establish the connection to the local repository to remote repository, but still it will not push the code. Just establish the connection so that this command is also, we have to execute only one time. Only one time we have to execute this command. Okay. So this command will connect local repository to remote repository. So only one time, first time we have to execute this command. Second time not required. Okay. Let's try to execute this command now. So here you can say get remote add origin, and here we have to copy the URL in the double quotations. This is the URL, right? So this is your, where is your URL? Yeah, this is a repository URL, remote repository URL. So here, just paste it over here. Done, press enter. So now it is connected. So once it is done, it is connected. Okay. So once it is done, sorry guys. Yeah, fifth command we deleted. Sorry, just a second. Yeah, this is the sixth one. Okay. So now once you executed this command, our local repository is connected with the remote repository. So now the last step is what? We have to push our code from local repository to remote repository. So currently in the remote repository, I don't have anything. So this is an empty repository, right? So let's minimize it. And now let me push the code into remote repository. So to push our code, we have to execute one more command. Let me clear this. And what is the command? Get. So the command is get push is a command. Get push -u origin master. So this is the default branch. So actually in the companies, you will be allocated one branch name actually. So you have to give that branch name. So git push -u origin master. So when you execute this command, the entire code which is available in your local repository will be pushed to your remote repository. So now enter. And once executed this command, this will go and push your code. Yeah, now 100% is completed. So once it is done, now you can go back to your remote repository then refresh your page, and you will able to see all the files here. You can see here. This is your complete project. We have successfully pushed it to your remote repository. This is a workflow. So the entire workflow we have done. Suppose you already done something here. You already done one round of workflow. In the second round, I want to, suppose I have added some new test case now. In my workspace, I have added some new test case. For example, let's go to the test and assume, let me add some new test here. Let me create a new class. Let's say tomorrow we have added pet related tests. So I'll copy something called pet tests. Okay, so let's assume you created something else like this. Now, still we have not implemented. So for example, let me say yet to implement. Okay, now we have done some change, right? So this change is not part of your local repository, and also which is not part of your staging, and also which is not part of your remote repository. So this is a new change you have done, right? So now how we can make sure this change is a part of again all the repositories? Then again you have to start the same process, because we have done some changes, right? Again we have to do the same command from the beginning. Clear everything. And the first thing is what we need to add those files to index. Again, you no need to repeat all the commands from the second round. You no need to you no need to repeat this command. Git init is only one time command. First time we already executed one time, it is done. Okay, and this is also one time command. So these are also one time command. So we have also done this one time. And status you can execute anytime and add commit. So check the status, add, commit, and push. This is also one time command. And the last command what we have executed, git push -u, git push -u. Just a second. Okay, just a moment, guys. Give me a second. Okay, so again come back. So here when you do some changes, whenever you do some changes in the project, so we no need to execute all the commands. So what are the commands we have to execute? Only status command, add, commit, and push. So git push -u and origin master. Okay, this is the last command which we have to execute. So let me just do one more round of execution. So we already done some change here. So go to command prompt, and the first step we need to make sure that should be added to the staging. For that, what is the command? Git add -a. So you can just, or else you can directly specify the name of the file, but you need to again go to that location and then you have to do it. So git add -u. So this is, sorry, git add -a. So yeah, this is added. I think the working copy of test case log XML will be replaced by, okay, that's fine. So this is added, and then we have to commit into local repository. So what is the command? Once it is added, git add, or git add is done, right? So git commit. So git commit -em, and here I'll say commit message, and then quotations closed. So here done. So the file is got committed. So this is the new file which we created, right? So this is got committed. Now we need to push it into the remote repository. Again, same command, git push -u origin master. So git push -u origin master. So this command will push the same file to the remote repository. Okay, it is done. So now again, go back to your remote repository and refresh. So if I just open src test, now if I go to the test here, you can see the new file which is committed just now. You can see here, this is the one, pet test.java is committed, and which is pushed to the remote repository. right? So this is how we can just push entire code into remote repositories whenever you do some changes. Okay, so yeah, so if we do some new changes, that will be automatically updated in the remote repository. Okay, so this is how we need to work with the Git and GitHub repository. So this is called workflow of Git and Git repository. So now what is the final goal? So once the files are available in the remote repository, our Jenkins should able to execute this. Our Jenkins should able to execute these files in their environment. So now we need to install Jenkins. So I think earlier I have shared the document how to install Jenkins. So just follow the document. If not, I will share the Jenkins document and you can install your Jenkins on your local machine. So I already have my Jenkins. Let me just start my Jenkins through the war file. Okay. So in the C drive, I have a Jenkins folder. So let me run this war file cmd so that I can start my Jenkins. So cmd here, java-jar, java-jar, jenkins.var. Allow access. So this will start my Jenkins. So in the GitHub repository, you don't do direct changes. Okay, whatever changes you want to do, that should be done only through your project. If you delete something here, that also automatically committed. So this deleting, suppose you deleted this file, and again you have to do the same process. So again you commit, you add that change in the staging, and then again add that change in the local repository, then automatically the same change is applicable in the remote repositories. So even if you add a new file or updated existing file or deleted some file, whenever you do any change in this, again you have to execute all the commands, same sequence of command: add, then commit, and then push. These three commands continuously will execute. Okay, so now let us start my Jenkins. So I have started my Jenkins. Let me open my Jenkins application. So Jenkins will run on localhost 8080. Okay, so this is my Jenkins application. I'm just logging in. So first let me complete this and then I'll take the questions. Okay, admin. Click on the sign in. So even if you don't have any files to add, still you have to execute the commands. Okay. So suppose I have not added any new files. I have modified some file or I have deleted some file. That is also some change, right? So what you need to do now, you need to add -a. So this add command always required, even though this add command is applicable for change, not only for adding files. Okay, so this add command is applicable for all kinds of changes like updation, deletion, adding new file, everything. So whatever you have done some change in the workspace, if you want to make sure that change is a part of your local repository and get a remote repository, you have to execute these commands, sequence of commands. Okay, so come back to the Eclipse, come back to the Jenkins. Now in the Jenkins, I want to run my project. Okay, so how to run my project in the Jenkins? We have to first check the configurations are correctly given or not. So we need to go to manage Jenkins. Here we need to set Java path, Maven path correctly. We just go to manage Jenkins. Here you can see something called global tool configuration. Go here and make sure your Java path and Maven Git, these paths we have to configure correctly. So here, and this is our Git location. This is correct. And JDK installations. And currently this is my old Java path, which is given. So now we need to change it. So currently I have changed my Java path. So go to the C drive. Where is my Java program files? Java. This is the current path, current Java path. So that I have to specify here. Okay, and Git path, again, this is the same. So Git, we already installed Git, right? So that is a part of C drive. So here, if I just go here, you can find the Git location, Git program files, and you can see the Git here, Git, and you need to go to inside of bin folder, and we need to copy this entire path along with the executable file. So that you need to specify. So Git JDK and then Maven. So these are three paths, Maven installations. Here you specify the Maven location and then apply and save. So cross check these configurations first time, and then we will able to run our project. So create a new item, and here I can give my project name. So I can give any name to the project. So I'm just giving my same project name here. Okay, so let me just add this. So this is the project name, and let us take Maven project. Currently we are using Maven project. So select the Maven, say okay. All right, so here in this general section, we have to select some options. So source code management is Git we are currently using. So here we have to specify the remote repository URL, so that our Jenkins will automatically get the latest changes from the remote repository. So copy this URL, remote repository URL. This is the most important thing actually. So specify here. Okay, you don't need to provide any credentials because this is a public. And then come to this build section directly. Here, pom.xml we have to execute. So pom.xml is already there in a project. So now here we have to give the command. What is the command we have given in the command prompt while executing this? Same command. I say clean test. So this is the command I'm giving. This is a Maven command. That's it. So then apply and save. So you don't do all these things in the real environment, okay? Because this is all infrastructure environment or infrastructure which will be set up by the DevOps. So they will just give the access of Jenkins and they will create account for you. All other configurations, they do it. Okay, so now we created our own project in a Jenkins. So you can directly run from here by using build now, or else you can just go here. This is a dashboard page, and here you can see your project. So still it is not at run, pet store automation, still it is not at executed. So you can directly execute from here. Click on here, build now. You can use this option, or you can directly click on this project. Then you will go to project specific dashboard. And here also you can run. So you can just click on the build now. It will start executing your project. First time it will pull the entire project from the Jenkins. So you can just see, click on the progress bar here, and this will also show you the process. It will pull the entire project from the GitHub repository. Then it will start executing your project. So this is how we will able to execute our project through Jenkins. So till here, this is your responsibility. So just configure your project, make sure your project is running in Jenkins successfully. Maven location where we will get. So we already have Maven, right? In the C drive, Maven. So this is the Maven location. This is a copy. You need to copy this location. Okay, so now it is successfully executed, and finally we got the build success here. And this is a continuous process. So every day you will add some stuff in your workspace, right? You will add more files. Sometimes you modify some files. Sometimes you delete some file. So every time, suppose I deleted this file, for example, pet store. I just want to delete this. I don't need this. I deleted this. But this deletion, this change is not part of your repositories. If you delete here, it will not automatically delete from local repository or remote repository. It's still there in the remote repository. So if I go to your GitHub account, still you can see here. So pet test.java, still you will be able to see here. It will not do delete here. But now I want to apply that change. So here you can't delete directly. So you delete it from the workspace. And after doing the deletion, again, same process we will continue. So what is the process we need to continue here? Again, same thing. So let me just try to execute the git commands one more time. Clear? And the first command is what? Git add -a, right? So then git commit -m, and you can just write command deleted file, some commit message committed, and then we have to push this change. Git push, what is that command? Git push -u origin master. Okay, this is the command. So now this change is also applicable. Now after doing this, go to the remote repository and refresh. Now you will not able to see the pet store test here. So that is got deleted. So the add command is applicable for all kinds of operation. If you delete or update or add a new file, whatever change you do, again, you have to do the same commands. So this is a complete workflow of Git and GitHub. But they are very basic stuff. So again, there are so many advanced stuff here because there are so many other Git commands also there. So later I will share some of the videos so you can just learn the complete Git and GitHub process. But here we are not going to discuss the complete Git and GitHub. So because this is a huge concept actually. You have to learn this separate as a separate course or separate thing. But no problem. I will share some of the videos so you can just go through them and then you will understand entire Git commands. Okay. So this is a concept of CI, guys. We have discussed about Maven, Git, GitHub, and then Jenkins. Okay. So all the documents I will share. Okay. And how to install Jenkins, how to install Git, and the entire process. We have a documentation. So I'll share the documentation. You guys can do it. So Git related playlist, the complete playlist is available on my YouTube channel. If you want, you can just go through it. Go to my YouTube channel playlist. You can find Git videos. Almost 10 to 15 videos are there. You can just go through all of them. Okay. Fine. So this is a last concept from Rest Assured. So you can continue this, add more number of tests here. And I've just added only user tests. So you can continue with this project by adding pet and store related modules and then complete this project. And once it is completed, then push the entire project to the GitHub repositories and try to execute through Jenkins. So this is the process. Okay, so even if you face any issues in the GitHub, Jenkins, so no, don't worry about this more because you have to more focus on writing the test cases. That's the most important, writing automation test cases. And these things you will learn slowly, no problem. If you face any configurations, you no need to worry about this. You can still practice automating the test cases are most important. So these things you will learn slowly also on the spot. Even once you join in the project also, you will know exactly how we need to do these things. And this is not a big thing actually. So you need to more focus on writing the automation test. That's the most important. Okay. So that's it. And so we have done this part. And then I will share some of the important things and general things. I will try to discuss them now. And I'm stopping here. Okay.